mean, Nick, you can jump in right here. Obviously, the big one was Ferreira coming in for Sargent. So he did not even dress for the day. So it was kind of like for like versus Haji Wright, which is obviously much more of a target striker. Everyone else kept their place. We played the classic 4-3-3. Had a great start. Pulisic could have scored in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, he'll really want that one back. There's no doubt about it. I think everybody thought that was offside at first, but he was actually being held onside by Netherlands left wing back, and he just hit it with his heel. Like he had much more time than I think he realized, and just kind of healed it. And the Netherlands have a goalkeeper 6'8". I mean, he's just fucking massive, this guy, and he he's a good keeper too, which is not bad. But Pulisic will want that one back. The United States started brightly. First 20 minutes was definitely more of an even match, and then I will say, man, credit to Louis van Gaal, credit to the entire Netherlands team. They outthought and outcoached and out-tacticked us yesterday. And, they were setting traps in midfield. They didn't need the ball to be effective. They hit 3 counterattacks, and those were their 3 goals. Our XG was really close to theirs, 1.7 to 1.5. But they were so clinical, and they just were better organized. And I think, in those moments when you don't finish your chances, organization can sometimes keep you in games, Dan, and the Netherlands just were tremendous yesterday. They were as good as advertised, and I thought the U.S. would have a chance in this game, but just didn't really come to pass.
The control that we were able to exert in some of the previous games was not on display in this performance for us. It felt as if we were chasing a little bit more, that it was definitely open to interpretation in terms of even having more possession at this point in the Netherlands. Like, Netherlands were comfortable at times, like giving it up to us. I think that really shifted after they went ahead, where it's like, okay, well, we've got 2 goals now. We're heading into the second half, and we'll let you come at us a little bit more, and you can chase the game, Brandon, because ultimately the threat had died down a little bit, and the Netherlands just did a great job of staying compact and limiting really good shots on target.
The Netherlands cruised their group. They're one of, I think, 3 teams on 7 points. England and Morocco are the other 2 that were undefeated in group stages. They were having a very quiet tournament, not making any big splashes. They were just doing the business, just kind of quietly and slowly. Gakpo had scored in every single game. He did not score, so if you're going to take that into consideration.
Barely had a touch in this game, by the way. Like, he barely featured at all.
Yeah, I don't know if he would end up having to do a lot more defensive work, and he came off kind of early as well. But
Carl Carpenter, who I would tell you to follow, he's a great analyst out there, showed how Memphis and Gakpo were basically pressing our fullbacks the entire match, leaving the middle of the field open for their midfield to come crash. Very interesting tactics. I didn't even recognize that in real time, so it's a credit to him for kind of pointing out how the Netherlands kind of set traps all over the field for us to fall into, and we fell into them regularly. Like, it was a tactically naive performance against Louis van Gaal, who's been around the block about 18 times and knows what the hell he's doing. Like, you got to just give him credit for what they did, but Gakpo wasn't even a factor offensively.
Yeah, and I think that we'll touch on that here in a second. Some of the top line stats: the U.S. actually had more possession, 56%. We had 80% pass accuracy to their 75%, which actually kind of surprised me. Shots on target, we were 6 of 17. They were 6 of 11. So again, pretty even as far as that went. Christian scuffed a couple that kind of just rolled to the goalkeeper that we didn't have that luxury. Yeah. And then Turner had 3 saves. Their goalkeeper had 5 saves for Noppert. So anyways, kind of on the bounce a little bit. Netherlands did foul us twice as much. We only had 5 to their 10. We had 5 corners to their 4. So the U.S. definitely kind of took it to them. We definitely wanted to try to make something happen. Especially in the second half, I thought we showed well in terms of having the courage to go for it and leaving ourselves open, having, pretty much putting Tim Ream in space and saying, hey, you got to play a high line, boss, figure it out. And they were able to do that. Yes, did Netherlands have chances in the second half? They did, but they had, they scored one out of many. And so what I would say is like the defense had to step up and play in a very open system, and they did. Obviously, we made some changes as the game went on, but overall, the courage and the gambles were there. Gio came on at halftime.
Yeah, look, I said on Friday before the game, like, I no predictions. I wasn't feeling great about a US win, in this match by any means. My criteria for the match was play to win and play hard. And I think the team did that yesterday. And yeah, we were outdone, Dan. We were outdone by a team who has been around the block, who is well managed, and who frankly have some really good talent on there. I think they played their best match of the entire tournament against us by a mile. They were just disciplined, and I'm just proud of the performance. I'm proud of the way the team fought. They're certainly going to learn a hard lesson from this because it was tough, but those were the criteria I had, and I'm really pleased with the performance.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear a lot of the commentary afterward jump into the armchair analysis and trying to figure out what could have been done differently to advance beyond this side. Was it the selection of the players who made it into the squad? Maybe was it a different attackers that would have been a part of it? I think we also have to remember this is a extremely young side. And probably the thing that has me the most excited for 4 years from now is you're going to take some of these players in their early 20s and then their mid 20s, starting to really kind of hit the best years of their sporting career. And that midfield is going to be a really, really tough get for whomever has to play this USA side heading into the next World Cup. I think this is it feels like the team for the future, and that we did the job we needed to do in this World Cup to show the world that we're ready, we're building, that we are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next World Cup. And again, I don't even know if winning the next World Cup is the goal, but I think it's advancing to the next round, right? So get into the round of 8, maybe pushing and come really close to, the quarterfinals and like quarterfinals, semifinals, like those are the next steps that you have to get there all the time consistently. And if this is the first step in doing that, this was a really strong first step, Brandon.
I think, I kind of put out the tweet right at the end of it, right? That I just said, I was proud of the team, not having been there in 8 years. We missed an entire World Cup. We had the second youngest team at the tournament, behind Ghana, who, didn't do a whole lot. I think that with us hosting with our neighbors to the north and south in 2026, I think with a proper coach, this team can really do a lot of danger. And I'm going to be really excited because not only, Nick, did we get a generation of European players in the team right now, that's not going to go away. We're going to continue to have players come through over the next 4 years. That
is players playing in Europe.
Yes.
Yes.
Fair. Good clarification with dual citizenship, nationalities. And that's going to give us more depth. Nothing against the players who play domestically or who do not play in Europe. But we know that the best players typically play in the European leagues. As you look at Europe dominating in South America, both those teams are loaded with European players. So I'm very optimistic. Again, I think that us getting out, as Dan said, is a credit to the group. And Elizabeth is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry it's over," and I was like, honestly, I'm good. I was like, I think we did enough. I got some fun games to watch. Like I chalk this one up as a solid World Cup.
Yeah, I agree. The path to progress is not a straight line most of the time. Like there are knockbacks. I watched this World Cup with my buddy Drew, who we've been all around the country to watch the U.S. play throughout the years. We were at the Costa Rica game. We've been to multiple qualifiers, and we've seen this team go through just a ton of change, a ton of failure, a ton of disorganization. But we watched the 2014 World Cup together in Lincoln, Nebraska, and Max Bretos put out a tweet today that really made me feel good, which is in 2014, we were knocked down the round of 16 by Belgium. Tim Howard had to make a World Cup record 16 saves. The game wasn't even close. Like, Belgium were dynamic and interesting and good, and we were just kind of holding on for dear life. And 2018, you didn't qualify, right? So trajectory down. And then this year, back up, right? The team gets out of the group. They beat a tough Iran side. They play their best match of the entire tournament against England on Black Friday, and generally look dynamic and solid. And the defense outside of counterattacks yesterday looked really good. And all these guys were young for the most part. I mean, this is like, it's a really exciting prospect to see. And the ceiling for this team is incredibly high. But I think I'm most proud of the players and the personalities on this team. Tyler Adams is a phenomenal human being and a phenomenal captain for the U.S. Yunus Musa, what a story. I mean, that kid is just going to be outstanding in the future. Pulisic getting off the schneid and playing a pretty good tournament overall. And there are a lot of haters on him right now, which is odd because I think he played pretty well. Like Tim Weah, Dest, all these guys. I'm incredibly excited for 2026. And like all these guys should just be holding their heads high. Even Berhalter acquitted himself well throughout the tournament, although was undone yesterday by a better coach. But this is just international football. When you're in the last 16 of the World Cup, Dan, like these are the 16 best teams in the world. Like, it's going to be hard. Yeah. It's going to be a challenge. And you got to get to, like you said, you got to get to that round of 8. Like that should be the goal.
Look, strongest performance of Christian too, to the point you had. Obviously, didn't look 100% from where he was in the earlier matches to the match against the Netherlands, and I think we know why. There was a, had a little bit of a rough go about it. With the contact injury he sustained. He did have a really good opportunity. I think his XG on that was like 0.42. It was a really, really good chance and really, really good effort to keep him out from having another bit of a heroic moment there for us. But this seemingly would be what you would want him to have done to kickstart something heading into this 2/3 of the Premier League season that are going to be in front of us at the end of December.
Well, again, a hell of a run, a lot of opportunity, a good account of ourselves. I think, sometimes we can be set up to be the immature country that doesn't really understand what's going on in these tournaments. And I would say, look, our Canadian brothers fell hard and our Mexican brothers fell as well. And so we were the only team to go out from North and Central America to the knockout round. So we've got that edge on everybody, which is great.